Hey guys, Threasto, welcome back to another video, and today, it has been a long time since my first particle tutorial, and a lot of you guys have wanted more. That's my most popular video by far, and today I'm going to teach you a lot more advanced stuff you can do with particles that will make your particles look way better. I know in the last video I didn't really make any examples, I just kind of showed you what each thing did, but this episode we're actually going to start putting stuff together and maybe make a particle. So as you can see here, we have the sword I made a long time ago, and I have all these particles here which make it look pretty cool. These particles were a little bit older, so I don't think it looks the best out of anything I made, but if you're a beginner with particles, you might think this is absolutely insane. There's a lot going on here. You have these little sparkles, you have these electricity beams, these kind of swirling things, this fire. It's pretty crazy, and this glow as well. But that's just what you can do with particles, and you can do a lot more. I'm not the best at particles, but I do have a lot of stuff I can show you guys. Now, we're going to come over here to our example particle, and this is what we're going to be using for the whole tutorial. And I'm going to show you guys, the first thing I want to show you guys is how to use graphs for things such as size and transparency. As you can see here, you can set a regular size for your particles. Let me, where's the, okay, there we go. Now, as I was saying, you can set a regular size for your particles that will always be the same size, and you know, sometimes you just don't want that, right? Maybe if you're having something really consistent, you want it, like a laser beam or something out of particles. But if we go into this size graph, let's just move this out of the way for a second. We can move this up and down, this one on the left, this point, and it'll be the starting size. So if you see we make them very small, then it'll start out small, and as it progresses, it'll get bigger and bigger, and that's really helpful. Let me just go ahead and set the lifetime to just make it shorter so I can show you guys. So as you can see, they start small and linear, like gradually become bigger. Now, another thing we can do, let's show you some tips you can do with this. Now, there's a couple cool things I like that you can do. You can add more points first of all, so you can change the size as much as you want. You probably don't want that though. So now we can just go ahead and let's set this to about this. You can also insert exact values if you're that picky. I mean, I'm a little bit picky, but not that picky, so I don't really use it. But let's make our end size bigger, and now you can see our end size is bigger. But if we add a point right here towards the end, as you can see, it'll kind of stay small, kind of very smoothly, but at the end it'll kind of puff out. And I think that looks really cool for a lot of things. And you can also do it in reverse. You can make it start small, or yeah, start big and then turn small, as you can see there. And that's really good for making it when you want a particle to slowly disappear, because you know, normally it'll just pop out of existence. Now, I don't know exactly what kind of particle I want to make for this video yet, but we'll figure out as we go. So I'm just going to set this back to a kind of linear decrease, and that might look good as some sort of trailing off fire or smoke. But we can also use these graphs for transparency. Also, there's squash. I've never used that. Maybe we'll revisit that later. But we can set our transparency here, and if you just want a particle that fades out really nicely, all you have to do, come in your graph, just move this right point all the way to the top. As you can see, when it starts, it is fully visible, and then slowly decreases. So that allows for a very smooth transition for your particle to disappear. Combine that with your size decreasing, and that also looks really good. But we can also mix it up a little. We can kind of make it gradually increase and then sharply increase at the end. So as you can see here, it's mainly visible for the majority of it, and it only like disappears at the end. So if you don't want it to be kind of transparent the whole time, you can do that. Now I think for our particle today, we're just gonna kind of do a fire as you saw in the previous particle tutorial's thumbnail. Now, if you can't visualize what a fire looks like, you can always find a reference off of Google Images, and this is really helpful when I want to make a particle but I don't know where to start. Now here is just a fire particle I found off a quick Google search, and as you can see, there's different parts to a fire. At first glance, it may just look like this main fire bit, but then you see at the edge, we also have more kind of smoky bits, and we have a lot of embers flying off. So already there's two more things we can add to our fire. We can have our main fire particle, an ember particle, and a smoke particle. Now we're going to go hop back into Studio, and we're going to start messing with our size values. Now what I've done here is I just kind of made it start really big, and then quickly get smaller, and then gradually get smaller there. So as you can see, it starts out big, like a fire starts out big, but then as it gets towards the top, it kind of trails out. And you can see down here, this doesn't look quite good with this just popping in. So a quick thing we can do for that is to come back to our transparency, put this all the way up here, and and then just drag it down back to where you want it. So now you can see it fades in and also fades out. And that just makes for a nicer, smoother looking particle. Now for our fire, I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger just so it's more spread out. But next we're just going to quickly give it a color. In your color property, you can also have a gradient. I don't remember if I showed this or not. I might have not, but either way, there's a gradient. I think we all know how gradients work. We can start with one color. Let's start with like a deep orange. Maybe something like that. And then turn it into kind of pale yellow. And that'll look for a kind of cool, that'll look like a kind of cool particle for our fire there. Alright, so I kind of messed around with this a little bit. I didn't show you guys exactly what I did because making particles, a big thing about making particles is kind of experimenting and having fun with it. Because there is no exact science to making particles. I mean, sometimes there can be, but for the most part, you're just going to want to play around with these values until you get something you like. Also make sure you don't make them too extreme because sometimes that can make your particles look a little weird. You want to kind of make them look natural and make them look nice. So if I were to take this fire particle and just make the spread angle like 150, that doesn't look like a good fire. But even this, untextured, no texture, it still does look like a fire and it does look pretty nice. But anyways, that's basically about it for properties I have to teach you. There are a couple more that you can mess around with. But I think we're going to move on to making a texture, and I'll show you guys how to find some good textures that you can use for your particles and a couple different resources. Now, you can always go in the toolbox and find some particle. Let's look up fire. We can find some fire particle in the toolbox, but you see, we get a lot of random garbage in the toolbox that we're not looking for. But we can also go on the Roblox website, and there typically you can find particles a little bit easier to like specific textures you want. But in my opinion, a really good way to find particles is simply by looking them up on Google. Now, simply searching something like free particles and putting like game asset or something, you can find a lot of different particles. You'll find ones for Unity, but you can also use them in Studio, of course, because they're just PNGs. Now, I think I have this pack right here, the Kenny particle pack, and I actually used this one for the sword, as you can see here, because I used some of these same textures that he put in the particle pack. Now, a lot of particle packs are completely free to use, but you can always just go to Google Images and find PNGs of what you're looking for. Now, if you just look up something like fire particle, you're going to find some particles that are completely free, because obviously they're just on Google Images. Make sure you find one that's actually a PNG, not these fake PNGs. A way to do that is going to Tools and Color, and there's not black and white, but transparent. Hold on. Yes, there we go. Now we'll only get PNGs that are actually transparent, so you can feel free to use these for your particles. The only downside is some of these you can't really recolor that well unless you have a white version or you just like desaturate it in a program like Photoshop. But anyways, let's get back to this particle, and I'm actually going to use one of the particles for this. Now here are a couple different ones we have. I'm going to use this flame right here. That flame is a little bit dark, so I don't think I'm going to use that one. I'm going to use this one instead. Now that one already looks pretty crazy. I think I like how this one looks. It's very stylized, it looks like, but you know, it's kind of still just looks really similar. It's all just the same texture. So what we can do to fix that is actually extremely easy. Take our particle here, duplicate it, and then just change the texture. Now we can change our texture to this other fire one, and if we just reduce the rates of both of these to about 20, there we go. Our fire is already looking a little bit more kind of mixed up and not so kind of copy and paste it like it. Now I think we're gonna need some light emission here just to kind of make it look more like a fire. Maybe 0.3, about 0.3, maybe 0.2. 0.4 is a little much. I think 0.2 looks kind of good. Now I think we're gonna want some more fire because, you know, fire usually is there's usually a lot of it when there's a fire, a big fire at least. Let's put the speed at 3 to 4 actually, and we can put our rates up to 30, and I think that looks a little bit better. Of course we can also change our spread angle a little bit. Let's just do 30, see what it looks like. Not a huge fan of it. I'm gonna put it back as how it was before. Now our fire is already looking pretty nice, but we can add some more textures. We've already layered these two, but we can duplicate this one, and let's put a different texture. Let's take this little let's take this little circle. Now we're actually going to take this. We're gonna make the size smaller because this is a little bit big, so we're gonna just make it, you know, a little smaller. Maybe about that big, yeah, something like that. And we're gonna make the speed faster. and we're going to make the lifetime shorter. Now, I also put the Z offset behind these two particles because we're going to make the spread angle about 60 maybe. That might be a little much. Let's put some drag on them and maybe less of our spread angle. Now, one thing I really forgot to show you guys with your size graph and any graph in general, you can take these two little black lines above it. I don't know if you can see them, but if we just drag them, now we have a range of how big our particles can spawn. So they can spawn anywhere from here to here in size. Let's make that a little smaller. Now you can see our fire is looking kind of a lot more natural because it doesn't look as similar in size. So let's just take this, make this a little bigger, and there we go. Now our fire particles can spawn anywhere from really big to kind of small, and just makes it feel a lot better. I'm still not happy about these textures. I might change them a little bit. Give me a second. I think I'll find something. Now there we go. You might not notice it at first. Let me actually make it night. I think you'll be able to see it a little better. No, I actually can't. Okay, but I added these little kind of embers flying off. I don't think these look the best, but for an example, they look alright. And as you can see, that just makes our fire particle not feel as static. Like there's actually little flying bits coming off. And I think one last thing we should add is maybe some smoke, and that would look kind of cool. Now I got our smoke texture. Let's actually put this as the offset to 0 as well, and we're gonna make this lifetime a lot longer. Maybe 4 seconds. Let's do 3.5 to 4 seconds. And this will be, we'll start this small because smoke will start small, but now as it progresses, it'll get bigger. This might be a little big. I feel like that's probably way too much. Let's put it back to 2 to 3 or 2 to 2.5. That should look nice. Now our transparency, we don't want it to go all the way up like that. We want it to slowly increase in transparency. Now our speed is a little high. I'll put that at like 2 to 3. And that's looking a little bit better. And now let's change the color. Now there we go, guys. I think I'm going to make these a little bit more visible. I'll make this really, honestly just like 100 or something. But now our fire is looking really nice. I do think it looks really awesome. We have this smoke now. And we can always add another particle on top of that, and then just change the texture again, just to give it a little bit more variety. Once again, just to wrap up, make sure you go on Google. You can find some free texture resources anywhere on Google, really. It kind of takes a little bit of digging sometimes to find exactly what you're looking for, but you can always look in the toolbox to find specific things that you want. And just for fun, I'm going to make these all hexagons just to see what it look like for kind of a simulator or low poly style. Now, I don't think this looks too good. I just kind of quickly put this together. I had to delete one of the particles, but you see, you can kind of make something really cool for any kind of style. It doesn't have to be these always have these realistic textures, but that just goes to show the particles can really do a lot for your game. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for today. If you did enjoy the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and join our groups, our Banana Boater group, and Threasto Studio, and also join our Discords. And I'm definitely going to make more particle tutorials, maybe in the future sometime, I don't know. But leave suggestions for what kind of particles you want me to make next if you made it this far in the video. Anyways, peace.